Hey, hey. Okay. Okay, let's get this right. Let's get this right. Test, test, test. Hopefully you can hear me. I don't see the little thing down here, but we're gonna make it work. We'll make it do what it do. Let's see. Try to test, test. Okay, I think I see something there now. All right, so as you come in, just go ahead and drop in the chat where you are watching from. Let me know who's in here. And let me know if you can hear me. My tech specialist is not here, aka my husband. So I really don't even know if you can even hear anything that I'm saying. So if you can hear me, just let me know. Let me know. All right. So listen, we are here today and I'm excited. Today we are doing day one. We are on day one of our 2 day, our 2 day, the art of surrendering to healing. It's going to be 2 days. So it'll be today and as well, it would be tomorrow. Now, if you are watching the replay, still let me know where you are watching from because the live chat will be up. The live chat will be up for you to be able to still be able to type in and watch and put the things in there as you go. But I'm just going to check, make sure that we're good on my end. Okay, we are good. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Listen, I don't have a lot of time today because the kiddos are here. It is 6:30. I normally don't do a lot of trainings at night. I prefer to do them like 12 o'clock in the afternoon, but here we are. We are doing the work that is necessary. So today we're going to do day one. Today we are talking about being able to answer how can you actually surrender to your healing. Many of us are struggling with being able to surrender to our healing. Because what does that look like for us? It looks different for everybody. So we're going to talk about that. So welcome in, welcome in. Make sure you share all the things. All right. So who am I? I am the founder of the Heal Grow Reset movement, and I'm also the creator of the Soul Care 101 Intensive. It was in 2015 that I left behind the mental health and wellness career I was building at the time. And I got married. I moved to Georgia, and I took my experiences and my degrees and became a high school biology teacher, right? Fun fact. So I was in the wellness space, left the wellness space, went into education, took my wellness background, my science background, mental health, all the things, went and taught biology. Now, when the world shut down March 2020, I finished out the school year and I didn't go back. I didn't go back. I didn't go back that school year. So in that time, I was able to just sit with myself. So I don't know if maybe for you during the pandemic, you were sitting with yourself, right? All of us had to slow down and we had to see some things. So some of the things that we saw that the divorce rates went up. We saw that the separations went up, and we saw that a lot of people with depression, all those things started to really started to show up, right? We saw all of the therapists were super busy, all the things, because society, the world finally had a chance to slow down and actually sit with themselves. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. So for me, what that looked like was hearing the word over and over. I would watch YouTube videos in my dreams. I would be on listen to podcasts. I would watch TV shows, and I always would hear the word reset. I would always hear the word reset. You got to reset. You got to reset. And so I said, okay, that must be a message because for some reason I keep hearing this word. And so while I was hearing that word, I said, okay, I'm just gonna. I think that's the spirit. Listen, I hear the spirit talking to me. I think I hear God talking to me. So guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to reset. So that's what I did. I realized that my life had been a quick whirlwind of changing seasons that I never slowed down to address issues I had in my lifetime. So when I started my business, what ended up happening was I started dealing with things like inadequacy. I felt inadequate. I started dealing with imposter syndrome. I started dealing with all these things out of nowhere. I mean, I had all the degrees, I had a good paying job, right? And I didn't even realize that I had things that I still needed to work on. right? And so it got to a point where I said, if I'm going to show up for my destiny, if I'm going to show up for my future, then guess what I got to do? I got to surrender to my healing. I got to slow down and I got to surrender to my healing. So that's what I did. That's what I did. So that's a little bit about me. So while you're here, the only expectation is that you will have your pen, you will have your paper ready. As always, you're always going to hear me say that. Anytime you come to any of these trainings, have your pen ready, have your paper ready, and let's take notes because I'm always going to give you some gems that you can dive in and take away from. All right. So if you're ready, let's go. All right. So I want you to think about this question. How come you'd rather allow another day to go by while remaining stuck in your yesterday? Let me say that again. How come you'd rather allow another day to go by while remaining stuck in your yesterday? So we see the seasons changing. We see the fall, the spring, we see summer, we see autumn, we see all the things. We see what God created, we see it changing. But you'd much rather play in the mud of your heart attacks. You much rather play in the mud of your heart attacks. So, what is a heart attack? I'm not talking about your physical heart attacks. I'm not talking about an actual heart attack where, your blood stops pumping and all those things. But I am talking about the attacks that have been on your heart since you were a child. Maybe it even happened yesterday, 5 years ago, 5 days ago, 10 years ago, whenever it was. There was something that attacked your heart. And it caused you to get stuck in the mud of your past, right? So, unfortunately, what we often want to do, we would much rather play in the mud. And one of the things that I like to call the mud, I like to call it because it's MUD, those are the things that mess up your dreams. So, all the things that's going to mess up your dreams. All right. So, I want you to write that down. MUD. Those are the things that's going to mess up dreams. And not just anybody dreams, they're going to mess up your dreams. And we're going to talk, I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, but it's going to mess up your dreams. So the question is, why would you rather play in the mud of your life? Now, the reason why we stay in the mud as long as we do is commonly because we'd rather have outpatient surgery for our heart attacks. So if you ever had outpatient surgery, you're in and you're out. You in, you have your quick surgery, you have your small, whatever, whatever injury you might have or thing you might have to get fixed. You're in and you're out before the sun goes down, right? And then that's it. They send you home with the prescription, you go and fill your prescription, and then time passes, right? But the reason why we stay in the mud as long as we do is because we always want to know, how can we do something quick? How can we move forward quick? How can we go forward quicker? How can I get over it? How can I move beyond it as fast as possible? And society has us moving fast, going all the time, so much so to the point that we don't know how to slow down to focus on ourselves and get our own selves out the mud. It's comfortable. It feels good. Sometimes it does, right? So a lot of times we would much rather stay in the mud, not only because we want something quick, but also because we're afraid of change. We're afraid of change, right? We would much rather stay hurt, stay hidden from our healing. We've gotten too comfortable being uncomfortable, right? So let me know in the chat, have you gotten too comfortable with being uncomfortable? Because if that is your truth, then that's something that has to change. You've gotten too comfortable being uncomfortable. It's like the broken heart and the heart attacks has become so familiar, you would much rather sit in that place of hurt and staying stuck in the mud than moving forward. So another reason why we much rather play in the mud is because we've been unknowingly scarred by culture standard of things like superwoman, men don't cry, and therapy is for them. So we much rather stay again where we are, stuck in the mud. What is the mud? All the things that mess up your dreams. What's messing up your dreams? What emotional hurts, what heartaches, whether it was when you were a child, whether it was today, whether it was yesterday, it's messing up your dreams. It's messing up your future. And you would much rather sit in that. So let's write those three things down. Why do we commonly play in the mud and all the things that mess up our dreams and our emotional heart attacks? Number one, the reason why we stay in the mud as long as we do is because we'd much rather have outpatient surgery. We much rather have outpatient surgery. That means get it quick. I'm trying to heal real fast. How can I just get over it? We're afraid of change. We're often afraid of change. So we much rather just stay hurt and hidden from our healing. But then number three, we've been unknowingly scarred by the cultured standard. So because we want to stay a part of the culture, right, in their standards, we much rather stay being superwoman, saying therapy is for them, and staying stuck. We much rather stay stuck. Now, there's two types of people in the world. There's two types of people in the world. There are those who are comfortable staying in their yesterday and those afraid of not meeting their destiny. Which one are you? Let me know. Are you comfortable staying in your yesterday, gossiping about what happened yesterday, talking about what happened, ruminating on it, being stuck again in the mud? Or are you the one who's afraid of not moving to your destiny? Which one sounds like you? Is it A or is it B? I'm comfortable being stuck. I'm comfortable looking like my yesterday. I'm comfortable being in the places I know I shouldn't be. Or B, I know that I need to move forward. I'm always pressing forward. I don't look in the rearview mirror when I live my life. Which one sounds like you? So let's look at both of these, right? So number one, let's look at Comfy Kathy. Comfy Kathy. So she's comfortable staying in her yesterday. She's comfortable. She's comfy. It's like she's sitting by the fireplace with the little dog and her nice comfy blanket, just chilling. Life just passing her by. Things is happening. And it's all right. She's just chilling. She's just like, it is what it is. Right? She's ruminating on the past. She's blaming others for where she was today and tomorrow, blaming everybody else, talking about what they did, how they approached you, how they're talking about you, all the things that they're accomplishing, and not pointing the finger back at themselves to say, this is me. This is my destiny. She believes healing, growing, and resetting her life is too much work. So she much rather stay stuck exactly where she is. Whether it's mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, it doesn't matter to her. Pain and all, just give it all to me. Just let me stay stuck right here. That's who she is. Does that sound like you? Stuck. That's the word for tonight. The word is stuck. We stuck. We don't want to be stuck. But sometimes being stuck is comfortable because as long as I'm ruminating on the problem in my mind, I feel like I'm fixing it. In my mind, I feel like I'm cussing them out. In my mind, I feel like I'm fixing things. I'm sitting on the throne. I'm sitting in God's way, and God is moving too slow. I'm doing a job. So let me just keep ruminating, thinking about what's happening because I'm fixing it. I'm sitting on the throne. I'm the one fixing it. So that means I get to sit there, right? So Comfy Kathy, she's comfortable sitting in her mess. She's comfortable remaining unhealed. She's comfortable sitting exactly where she is. And so she don't bother about healing. She don't bother about growing. And she don't matter if she resets. She's just like, let me just stay here. As long as I get to sit here, I get to blame everybody else for my yesterday. And I get to blame everybody for my tomorrow. So whatever my life doesn't go, whatever I don't accomplish, then I get to blame everybody else. But I get to sit here comfortable. That's Comfy Kathy. Right? But we also have resilient Ruth. Resilient Ruth. Now, the only thing she's afraid of is not meeting her destiny. She wants to meet her destiny. So she lives every day surrendering to her healing because she understands when she surrenders to her healing, that means she's freeing the chains off of her. She's getting rid of the angst of anxiety and the stress, right? The shackles of stress. She's getting rid of all those things. So she's healing, she's growing, she's resetting day by day. She's moving forward. She knows who's allowed to be in her life and who's just taking up space. She knows herself. She's an expert on herself. She knows what she needs. She's resilient. She moves in strength. She's not afraid to confront her past either. Many times we're afraid to confront our past. Here's the thing. Oftentimes we're afraid to confront our past because we feel like if we open up, it's going to open up something that we're afraid to confront. So that's why we use things like time to heal our wounds. So if you've ever heard that saying, time heals all wounds, it don't. Newsflash, it don't. It don't heal our wounds, right? So resilient Ruth, she's not afraid to confront her past. She's not afraid of the pain that might even show up as she's confronting her past because she knows that her past is her story and there's strength in her story. She's not afraid of being judged about her story. She doesn't worry about what society says about her story because she understands she got to heal, she has to grow, and she got to reset. She got to get up out that mud. She don't have time. She don't have time for all that because she's trying to get to her destiny. She aligns her life with her values and her beliefs. My question to you is, do you know what your values and your beliefs are? Because if you don't know what your values and your beliefs are, then guess what that means? That means people get to manipulate you. People will get to come and go as they please. People will get to put their values on you. You might become a people pleaser, trying to please everybody. You don't know who to keep close to you and who to keep away. You won't know those things, right? So she aligns her life with her values. She understands that if she does not heal, grow, and reset daily, that her destiny is destined to be destroyed. Let me say that again, because you need to write that down. She understands. The woman who understands that healing, growing, and resetting is necessary, she understands that if she doesn't heal, grow, and reset daily, that her destiny is destined to be destroyed. Because we're not living for yesterday. We're not. We're living for today. And hopefully every decision that you make today will lead you into a better tomorrow. So that's the point, right? So I don't believe that God called us to be comfy Cathys, running around comfortable with mediocrity and simply afraid of addressing and facing our problems head on. That's not who we were called to be. We were called to be resilient. We were called to walk in our strength. We were called to surrender to our healing. We were required to know what our soul care is going to be so that we can move forward. So why then is it so easy for us to stay stuck? That word again, stuck. Why is it so easy for us to stay stuck? Well, we have a problem with asking ourselves, what's the easiest and quickest way to get over this? I'm going to let that sit right there. We have a problem with asking ourselves, what's the easiest and quickest way to get over this? How can I hurry up and move beyond this? Why do I got to feel this? Why do I got to go through this? We want to hurry up and run past it. We don't want to feel that. So we're always asking that question. In reality, what you're asking is, how can I make it easier to get out of this pain? That's what you're really asking. See, sometimes when you sit back and you assess the questions that you're asking, you'll get to the truth of the matter, of what it is that you're really saying. Because when you get to the truth of the questions that you are asking, when you get to the truth of what it is that you're saying, it is at that point that, guess what? It becomes easier to heal. I didn't say easy, but I say easier. You can start the process. The process moves forward, right? So what are you really asking? Anytime you are going through that heart attack or that heartache, that emotional turmoil, the resentment, the anger, the bitterness, right? When you're going through those things, when you're feeling those emotions and you're trying to figure out what's the quickest way to get over it, I want you to understand that what you're really asking is, how can I make it easier to get out of this pain? And one thing about pain, it allows you to be resilient. Sometimes the journey that you're on and the pain that you're going through is not for you to run from it, but it's to strengthen you. And if you're going to keep running from pain, you're not going to get the strength that you need, because sometimes what you're going through in this season is the strength that you need, that you're going to need for the next season. And so when you don't sit in it and you keep trying to run, you're not going to strengthen your muscles, your heart muscles, right? So I want you to write this down. The principle of the quit, Quit. The principle of the quit. The principle of the quit. This is also known as the lesser of the two evils. Now, I'm pretty sure you heard that before. The lesser of the two evils. It's like when you're trying to decide, like, which way do I want to go? Which is the better of the two worse? What's the better worse? Right? That's oftentimes what we do. We try to figure out what's the lesser of the two evils. So, for example, we often stay stuck in the mud because we're trying to figure out, like, should I stay in this headache of a relationship or go through the headache of having to redefine my life? Like, which one? Should I stay in this horrible relationship, or should I just move forward and have to try to redefine my life? Because that's still going to be a headache. I got to have new things that I'm doing. I got to take new routes to work. I got to change my phone number. I got to try to get these memories out of my mind. I might have to move. There's these things. I got all these things to do. Should I just stay? Is it cheaper to keep her? Should I just stay, or should I go? Like, which one should I do? The principle of the quit. Now, not only that, maybe you said before, like, should I quit this job or just keep my 5-figure salary, which still isn't enough to pay for my daycare? Been there, done that. Should I quit this job? This job is causing me a headache, anxiety, fatigue, frustration, anger, resentment, bitterness, loneliness. It's causing all the things. But should I keep the money? Like, maybe this is the only money I'll be able to get. There's nothing else out there. I don't know, right? Lesser of the two evils. So oftentimes we stay stuck in the mud because we try to take the easy route. Because sometimes the hard route of the lesser of the two evils means you got to take a risk. And oftentimes we see risk as being too risky. And we also see risk as not being the right. Well, no, we need to be comfortable, comfy Kathy. I got to stay comfortable. That's our problems. Always trying to stay in the mud instead of just moving forward in what was called for us. What was called for you? What's for you? What's for you is not going to miss you. What's for you, God is not going to allow it to miss you. It won't miss you. It's not. So if you do have to, and I ain't tell you to do this, I don't want to say, well, Rachel told me to leave. No, I didn't. I didn't tell you leave your job, and I didn't tell you leave your man. I ain't tell you do not nail one on. But what I am saying is this: there will be moments where you have to choose the lesser of the two evils. And sometimes the lesser evil, which will still cause you pain, is a risk, but it'll propel you quantum leaps into your destiny. So instead of saying which one, here's a different way to preface your question. Instead of saying which one is the lesser of the two evils, say which direction is going to quantum leap me and propel me into my future. How do you see your future? Which one? Because the longer that you stay in the mud, the less your future is going to look like what God gave you and what God showed you in the vision, what God gave you in that dream, because you're trying to be stuck, be comfortable, and you don't want to take the risk. And sometimes it's not a risk. Sometimes it's just what God told you to do. Sometimes it's just obedience. When I quit my job, I was just like, done. I had been praying to God, like, please, God, like, get me off this job. And about 3 days later, the pandemic hit and everything shut down. And I was like, sweet, sweet, great. I'm going to finish out the school year and I'll figure out the rest later. But what happened was I was supposed to went back to work, and I woke up and my class was already started and I had a bunch of emails. And when I called, right, I called the principal, And I said, you know what? I'm not coming in because I just had a bad taste in my mouth about all those emails. I was just like, oh my gosh, like I can't. I'm not doing it. So I took a risk. I jumped. I took a risk. But sometimes it's not a risk. Sometimes it's just obedience. Sometimes it's faith. Sometimes it's trust, right? So I could have still been there and still been stressed out and still be in like that day where I was standing in the middle of my classroom. I was standing in the middle of my classroom. And while I was standing in the middle of my classroom, it was an empty room and it just started spinning. Felt like it was spinning and my heart was beating super fast. And I ended up going to the nurse office. I said, Listen, I'm not going to be laid out here in this room and nobody know that I'm here. Not about to happen. So I went down to the nurse office. When I went to the nurse office, she told me to sit down and she gave me a cup of water and she took my blood pressure. And the next thing she said was, "Oh my goodness, your blood pressure is so high. Do you want me to call the ambulance?" And I said, "No, call my husband." And I went, got my bags, and I left. But it was that day that I said, never again. Like a job won't be the death of me. I don't have to figure this out. Sometimes we're standing in situations that might literally be the death of you because you're afraid to take risk, because you're not listening to God in obedience, because you're just moving forward in the way that you want to move. And so that causes you more headache, more stress, more strife, more unrelief, more pain because you're walking in disobedience. So when will you begin to walk in obedience? Let's figure that part out, right? So the principle of the quiz, that was what that was, all right? So make sure you have that written down. Now, the question is how have we tried getting out of the mud? How have you tried getting out of the mud? Let me know. How have you tried getting out of the mud? Have you tried getting out of the mud? Now, society tells us that in order for us to get out of the mud, to subside our pain, we need to do things like bubble baths and get your hair and nails done and buy a new bag, as if there's not more to who we are, especially as women. So I'm gonna be honest. I get a little itchy when I start hearing conversations about self care. Sometimes, not all the time, because it is necessary, right? Self-care is necessary. I won't tell anybody not to do it, but there's a time and a place to do it. And when you're surrendering to healing, maybe that's not the right time to do it. Maybe it's not the foundation of your healing. I always see self-care as the ice cream or the cherry on top to the foundation of the healing journey that you are on. But bubble baths, Mr. Bubbles, that's not your healing. That's not your healing spot. It's just not. Going to the spa, you go to the spa, and by the time you leave, you get in a car, you check your phone, and you see that ignorant message. So you right back to where you were. Spa treatment and money down the drain. Right back where you were. So what was the point? Because you didn't do the healing. You didn't check your values, check your beliefs. You didn't check your boundaries, all the things. Maybe even change your number. Maybe we change your number. So that's one of the ways that we commonly try. We try to get out of the mud. We try to cure our heart attacks, and we try to cure our emotional wounds, right? With bubble baths, getting your hair and nails done, buying a new bag. But another way that we try to do it, we try to do it by staying busy. You try to stay busy, serving all the people, doing all the things while your heart is still bleeding. Like, come on. Your heart is still bleeding. You still have these emotional wounds. Your emotional wounds are fresh. That heart attack is fresh. And not to mention, you're exhausted. You're tired. You're overwhelmed. You need relief. But you make the sacrifice to serve anyway. So then you hear people saying things like, you can't pour from your empty cup. That's true. But the reason why your cup is empty is because you haven't done the work to get yourself out the mud. And you're just trying to stay busy and serve so you try to keep your mind from going to that one place. that place where you were emotionally healed, thinking about him or thinking about her, thinking about them, thinking about the job, what went wrong, what got lost. You even haven't even given yourself the opportunity to grieve. And so you're just sitting in that place unhealed and you're running. You're running. Stop running. Slow down. Stop trying to stay busy and face what it is that you need to face. Because until you face it, it's not going anywhere. Time don't heal our wounds, especially not them emotional wounds. It don't heal our wounds. It just don't. And if anybody told you that, they was a bald face somebody. They was not telling the truth. So you're trying to stay busy. So you're staying in this revolving door of self-sacrificial service. You're showing up on Saturday, you're tired, you're showing up at work, you're overwhelmed. You haven't slowed down yet. Since the doors open back from the pandemic, you've been gone. Been running around, you've been all out, doing all the things. So you never have time to slow down and receive for yourself what you need to move your heart into the emotional healing and growth. You never have time to even slow down to give you what you need. But you're out here self-sacrificial servicing everybody else instead of giving yourself what you need to emotionally heal and grow. Because you won't slow down. You won't give yourself enough time. Right? And so I know this all too well. When I was working in the school system, one of the things that happened is that I had two family members pass away. My grandmother and my mother-in-law passed away, right within a few days of each other. And after both funerals, we went right back to school serving. No time to grieve, no time to slow down, no time to heal. Just going all the time, just moving. And that's not fair to you. That's not fair to you. Because when do you get a chance to just be human? When do you get a chance to just stop and be? When do you get a chance to slow down and talk to God? When do you get a chance to do any of those things? So I want you to repeat after me. It's not enough to just live right. God needs me to live well. God needs you to live well. Don't just live right. Don't just try to dot all your I's, cross all your T's. Don't just try to live here on earth just to get in heaven. No, while you are here, live well. Focus on your emotional wounds. Focus on where in your life you need to surrender to healing. Where in your life do you need soul care? Where in your life? Evaluate. Take an audit. Was it something from your childhood? Right? You often hear people talk about the inner child. What does your inner child say? Has your inner child healed? So make no mistake, what you've gone through or what you're going through currently, it don't always show up as depression. It don't always show up as trauma, and it don't always show up as PTSD. Sometimes it show up as a character trait. Sometimes it shows up as a character trait. So I don't want you to think because I'm here and I'm listening to this, I'm not hurt, because that might be the first lie. A lot of times we allow time to heal our wounds and move, and we just keep going. But look at your character. Check your personality. If you ever say anything like, this is just who I am, this is just me, check your character. You're still unhealed. You might still have an unhealed soul. So on your job, you look like a leader, but to your employees, you're somebody who don't listen to anybody. It's just, I'm going to do what I want to do, and it has to go this way. And when you look back into your childhood and try to figure out, well, why am I this way? People call me bossy. People say I'm running all over their toes and I don't listen. Well, one of the things you got to think about is that if you are an individual who is going through some type of healing or going through some type of emotional pain, again, it's not always going to show up as depression, PTSD. It's not always going to show up as stress. Sometimes it's going to show up as that character trait. And when it shows up as that character trait, you got to check it, because maybe you grew up in an environment where you were seen and not heard. Maybe you grew up in an environment where you had to fight to get certain things, right? You lived in a two-bedroom home and there were six, seven, eight of y'all, and y'all had to fight for things. So now you realize in your life today that anger shows up really quick. You snappy and you irritable. You still haven't healed. Look at your character. The person who's always volunteering at work, sometimes they're always volunteering at work because maybe they didn't get seen when they were younger. So there was something that they need to heal. Their parent didn't give them something. Someone, an adult, didn't manage the household as well as they maybe could have. And so now it shows up in your life as an adult. And we think that the minute that we turn 18, this magic wand appears and we're just good. No, no. We got to get rid of that thinking that just because we're an adult, that everything is all good. No, it's not. Because that shows up in your relationships. It shows up in your parenting. It shows up in your job. So you think I'm good, but we can still see you. I can still see your heart. I can still see what you're dealing with. I still see you, right? So we belittle God to only needing him to just protect us from harm and dangers. That's what we've done. But God can do so much more besides protecting you from harm and dangers. How do I know? Because when you look at Philippians 4:6 and 7, it says, do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your request to God. But then it goes on to say, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds. So I want you to remember those words: peace, guard, heart, and mind. Guard, heart, mind, and peace. Now, where do we see this again? We seen it in Proverbs 4:23 with King Solomon. He said, above all else, guard your heart, for it is the wellspring of life. It's the wellspring of life. Guard your heart. Guard your heart. There's peace there. How else can you guard your heart? Prayer, of course. Thanksgiving, of course. But then there's some self-healing things that you could be doing. And we're going to talk about that a little bit further down. But right now, just know that there is work for you to do. Guarding your heart isn't just something cute to say, it's a demand. It's not just a suggestion, it's a command. Do it. Guard your heart. I didn't say put up walls, because we often make a mistake of putting up walls around our heart. You're not supposed to put walls around your heart, because then that keeps people out. And you're not to be alone, because then that's just going to cause something else. You being alone, now you're lonely, right? We were meant to be in communication with each other. How do we know? Because in Genesis 1, right, it says it's not good for man to be alone. We were meant to be together. When the pandemic hit, all of us, we were kind of feeling alone. We were just chilling by ourselves. We wanted to be in communication with each other. So don't put walls around your heart. Just guard your heart. That means I'm standing alert. When certain people show up, when certain jobs show up, when certain things show up, I know up front, I need to say, this is allowed in my life or this is not allowed in my life. And we're going to talk about that tomorrow with boundaries. But which one is it? You have to guard your heart. It says it's a wellspring of life that flows from your heart. Unfortunately, you got mud still trampling from your heart. You ain't supposed to have no mud in there. You're supposed to have some water. The wellspring, it's a wellspring. Some nutrients. Things are supposed to flow. It's the spring of life. You got to get rid of that mud, right? And so you're busy trying to put band-aids on your hearts when you're emotionally wounded or you're stuck in your character trait. Now, you have a soul and a spirit, and they both need different things to thrive. You have a soul, you have a spirit. You have a soul and a spirit. How do I know? Because Hebrews 4:12, it says, for the word of God is living and active, sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing to the division of soul and spirit. That lets you know. Hebrews 4 and 12. Look it up. Don't take my word for it. You got a soul, you got a spirit. You got to know how to work which one. How do you heal the spirit? How do you heal the soul? How do you surrender? What do they need? They're going to need something different. So, what is the soul and what is the spirit? So I like what Pastor Colin Smith says. He says, your spirit speaks of the inner life in relation to God. That's your faith, that's your hope, your love, your character, your perseverance. I like to even liken it to Galatians 5, where it says, but the fruit of the spirit is love, is joy, is peace, is forbearance, is kindness, goodness, is faithfulness, is gentleness, and self-control. Right? It's all the feels, it's all the feel goods, it's all the things that make you feel good. Okay, it's those feelings, the feelings of peace, the feelings of goodness, the feelings of kindness. But your soul, on the other hand, speaks of your inner life in relation to your own experience. Your soul is your mind, it's your heart, it's your will, it's your imagination, it's your thoughts, your desires, your passions, your dreams. So when you take a look at that list, your mind, your heart, your will, your imagination, and then you take a look at the other list about your spirit, right? Joy, peace, and forbearance. You have to understand that they're going to need two different things in order to be healed. In order for you to heal, you got to give it two different, totally different things, right? So when we look at your dreams, the dreams is a part of your soul. When we look at your desires and your thoughts, that's a part of your soul. When you look at your passions, your mind, your heart, and your will, and your imagination, that is a part of your soul. So your soul is going to receive something totally different from what your spirit is going to need. So the question is, who receives what or what receives what? People rarely show us how to heal. So you really don't know. I think that that's a good question. How do you heal? How do you heal the soul and how do you heal the spirit? If self-care isn't it, then what is? Taking a bubble bath and lighting candles, that can entice the fruit of the spirit, right? Where all the goodness, feeling good, the gentleness, all those things come in. All those things come into place, right? You light your candles, got the candles back here, smells good, relaxes you, it helps. But when your mind is in a dark place and your heart is overwhelmed and your will to go on is low and your imagination paints your future as less than capable, that bubble bath is not going to help. Period. It's just not. If my will to drive, if my drive is gone and I'm feeling less than, if I'm walking through, emotional turmoil, if I'm walking through imposter syndrome, if I'm feeling like I'm not good enough, if I'm walking through inadequacy, Mr. Bubbles is not going to help at all. It's not. Mr. Bubbles ain't about to help that. He ain't. Miss, what's the other one? So soft, whatever it's called from the pink stuff from Avon. It's not going to work. It's just not. So the goal is to apply the correct solution. The goal is knowing when your spirit needs to be lifted and when your soul needs to be healed. Your spirits need to be lifted. Candles can lift your spirits. Going to a massage, getting a massage can lift your spirits, right? Going and doing some shopping, that can lift your spirits. Your girlfriend's coming to town, they say, hey, let's go get some drinks. That can lift your spirits. But then your soul needs to be healed. And there's some things that it's going to need, right? You need the right tools to get yourself out of the mud. Are you just trying to lift your spirits? Self-care will work. Or are you trying to heal? Self-care is not going to work. You need some soul care. Your mind, your will, your imagination, all those things, okay? So how can you begin caring for your soul? So here's your answer. We know what self-care is and what that typically looks like, but we need to see what the soul care looks like. So I'm gonna give you one. Here it is. You can begin caring for your soul today by knowing what you need. Did you think it was going to be harder than that? Knowing what you need. That means having a sense of self awareness for yourself. That is becoming an expert on you. See, what we often do is we hold other people's feet to the fire for them to know who you are and how you are and what you need without you ever even knowing it for yourself, because you have not taken the time to become an expert on you and determine what it is that you need, because you've been busy running. You've been busy stuck trying to stay in the which one do I need? What's the lesser of the two evils? Just staying stuck in a place where you shouldn't be. You don't sit with yourself long enough to know what you need. The question is, when was the last time that you invested in you? When's the last time you read a book? When's the last time you did a journal? When's the last time you listened to a podcast that can help you? When's the last time you listened to a YouTube video even that can help you? When's the last time that you invested in a program that can help you? When was the last time? Because if you're not serious about healing, then answer is never. But when you're serious about it, you've got at least a book, maybe a favorite podcast, or a program you've invested in. When you're not serious, the answer is never, hardly ever, or rarely. Or when was the last time? Right? So your needs are based on your values, your beliefs, and even your story that you keep running from. You keep running from your story. What happened? A lot of people want to ask you, well, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Why are you so angry? Why are you so mad? Why are you so bitter? It's not what's wrong with you, it's what happened to you. And people are very insensitive. And this is why many of us are afraid to tap into our self awareness, to tap into our stories, to tap into our vulnerability because of shame. Shame keeps you from hitting or reaching that reality of healing that you need. When you're in shame, and a lot of times we are in shame because we're afraid of what people are going to say. You don't want you don't want to hear what people have to say about the drug addict boyfriend that you're with. You don't want anybody to have anything to say about having a baby out of wedlock. You don't want anybody to say anything about going through divorce. You don't want anybody, there's shame there. But the minute that you're able to move further away from being in shame, the minute that you're able to say, I'm going to own my story, I'm going to own who I am, I'm going to sit in the strength of my story. It is at that point that your healing can begin. It is at that point that your soul care can begin. It is at that point that you can begin surrendering to your healing. But as long as you stay in shame, now I'm not saying that you got to go out here and air out all your dirty laundry. But some people, they don't go to therapy because they feel like, why am I going to go and talk to this stranger? Right? They don't feel safe. They want a safe landing. The question is, do you have one? Do you have a safe landing? A landing where you can trust someone, where when things go wrong or when that heartache or that pain comes up again, you can say, I have a safe space to go to. And you don't have to wear everything around on you in a book bag like it's baggage. It's not baggage. It's not baggage, nor are you broken. You're not broken, nor are you baggage. I'm going to say it again. You're not broken and you're not baggage. You're not carrying around baggage. It's your story. So while what happened to you may not be your fault, it is up to you to surrender to healing. It is up to you to get soul care. That's up to you. That's on you. And when you start, that's going to change the trajectory of your future. It'll change the trajectory of your destiny and where it is that you're trying to go. So if you know your values and your beliefs, then you will be able to tell the world, including yourself, what's allowed in your life and what's not allowed in your life. What's allowed to be there? Who's allowed to be in there? Who's allowed to show up? What's allowed? Again, when you don't know, you allow any and everybody in. You allow that heartbreak to show up constantly over and over again, that manipulation to happen over and over again. You're going to feel like you're stuck in the mud. You're trying to figure out, why are your relationships all the same? Because you haven't put up any values. You don't know how to express your values. You don't know how to express your beliefs. You don't know how to express your feelings. Now, in order to express your feelings, I need you to understand that there is a difference between a thought and a feeling. Okay? Because tonight's training is about expressing your feelings. So, in order to begin expressing your feelings, number one, you got to own your story. Own your story. Get vulnerable. Find a safe space to land, right? Number two, know your values and your beliefs, right? When you know your values, when you know your beliefs, you're able to tell people, this is how I feel in this moment, and I don't appreciate it. This is how I feel in this moment, and it made me feel good. This is how I feel in this moment, and I want it to be better, or whatever the case may be. You will be able to express it, because all of the things that we say out of our mouth, a lot of times it has to do with your values and your beliefs. And so when you don't know your values or your own belief system, and I'm not talking about the things that you just learned in church, you're like, oh yeah, my values and beliefs is the 10 commandments. No. What are your beliefs? What are the things that you say is allowed? What are the things, whether it's physically allowed or not allowed, emotionally allowed or not allowed, is allowed or not allowed in time, it is allowed or not allowed in your space? Like, what are those answers? What are those answers? So be able to put people in their proper position to say who is allowed in your life and who needs to live from a distance. Okay. So we call that boundaries. And we're going to talk about boundaries tomorrow. But being able to express your feelings, I want you to go online to Google. There's something called the emotion wheel. And with the emotion wheel, one of the things that you're going to see is that it's this round wheel of emotions. A lot of times we only are able to express the easier emotions like anger, sadness, and happiness, right? But there's so many more. There's anger, there's resentment, there's bitterness, there's loneliness, there's excitement, there's all the things. But knowing how to identify an emotion by saying things like, I feel, is a good start. I feel. That's it. I feel happy. I feel sad. I feel upset. I feel worried. That's how you communicate your emotions. But it starts inward first before you can let it out. So, inward, you got to be vulnerable. You got to know your needs and your wants. And then you have to be able to identify your emotions. You have to do those things. Okay. So for your homework, and this homework is going to flow into tomorrow, into part 2, I want you to write down your values and your beliefs. What are they? Do you know what they are? Good question, right? Write down your values and your beliefs. So here is an example. I believe God created the earth, so I value servicing people. Value and belief. Or I believe that rest is good, right? That's my belief for the soul. Therefore, I value alone time. And as you begin to do your assignment, you may realize that your life is not in alignment with what you say you believe and value. So if you value rest, is your life in alignment with what you say? So take an audit. You have to start self-assessing so that you can move into your healing. This is the first step to surrendering to your healing. This is step number 1. So I will hope that you come tomorrow. I pray that I get to see your homework. All right. And if you're watching this back, let me know where you're watching from. Tomorrow will be part two. We're going to talk about how to move from communicating our feelings into actually setting boundaries for ourselves. That's going to include our feelings, right? So, in order to set those boundaries, you got to have values. You have to have beliefs. So, we're going to move into creating healthy boundaries tomorrow. And make sure that you share this with others who may need some of these tips. And then let me know, what was one of your biggest aha moments? What was one of your biggest takeaways from this? So let me know, and I will see you in the next training. See you tomorrow.